It's a fact that the emperor did have a helper, and he himself cannot control the rain. Recalling what the evil dragon Bapuni said years ago, particularly the line, "There's so much you don't know. There are many interesting facts in the room where your daughter is locked up. Her obsession with the dungeon must have a reason." The dungeon is that room in the palace basement where magic and sword skills can be used, except for the royal family. Anyone who enters can never leave. It's the most suitable place for that dog emperor to hide secrets. Regis is preparing to find an opportunity to attack personally. A day like today, with the palace bustling with people, is the perfect opportunity if his guess is correct. His old friend Debin should also have made progress. The most important thing right now is to shake off these mortal fellows. Taking off the glasses his wife loved most, he quickly exited through the east gate, but those people chased after him and Regis had already vanished. In their blind spot, Regis' size 38 large hand descended from the sky just like that. Several small fries were easily dealt with, but the sword, thinking itself meticulous, was caught red-handed by Billion. "Father, what are you doing here?" Regis was panicking internally. When did Billion follow him? He hadn't noticed. "Actually, I wanted to be with father today." Was this the first time he'd heard such words? Regis's mouth curled into a happy smile. If it were usual times, he'd certainly be happy to stay, but today he had to go somewhere first. "I have an appointment with someone. I'll be back soon," just as he was relieved that the emperor hadn't sent anyone to monitor him. The next moment, Lich found her way here. "Sorry to interrupt your conversation. Duke Hyulwin, I'd like to spend some time with my friend. Could you give us a moment?" Since the last celebration banquet, the princess and Belian's relationship had become extraordinary. Regis knew this too, and he was glad that this time his daughter had become friends with her this way. His daughter wouldn't experience that incident, and Regis felt deeply relieved. "I have something to attend to, so I'll leave first. Have fun with Her Highness the Princess." Without revealing his true identity to his girlfriend, the crown prince attended his sister's coming-of-age ceremony because his girlfriend was always with the noble ladies. She didn't pay much attention. But unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, the young lady disappeared. At this moment, he had searched the entire banquet hall but couldn't see Billion anywhere. Moreover, his girlfriend looked particularly beautiful today, making him even more uneasy than usual. Could it be that those with ill intentions towards Billion have already started to take action? Little do they know that the biggest competitor is actually her sister. Richie, at this moment, the two of them are on their way to the separate palace. Leaky is still worried about whether her best friend will like the tea she prepared. Looking up, Ekain's sixth son has already found the door. That look in his eyes clearly shows he's up to no good. He immediately turns to Belian and instructs, "There's this disgusting master near my room. I'll drive him away right now. You wait for me here." He doesn't know what Akai's intentions are. He had already clearly rejected him earlier. "Forgive my rudeness. I was just attracted by your highness's beauty and unconsciously followed you here." He doesn't believe a word of this pretentious nonsense. He has no interest in those who approach him for political gain. Akai's suddenly smirks. "What about political relationships? Your highness can just use me too. For example, when your position is in crisis." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly approached and informed him that the empress was already pregnant. He immediately felt as if struck by lightning. Even the outsider Belian looked incredulous. Seeing this, Akai smiled even more smugly. "Are you scared already? I'll make it difficult. Your highness, I haven't even told you that the empress is carrying a little son." When Yen struggled to keep himself steady, he never thought his mother's pregnancy was a bad thing. But learning about it from an outsider made him feel very sad. His trembling body slid down at that moment. Faced with the fake helping hand of the scumbag, Leaky had no intention of acknowledging it. At this moment, Billion rushed forward and tightly embraced Leaky. He was really worried about the princess and turned his head to glare angrily at the scumbag. He would absolutely not let such a person hurt his friend. This action surprised Akai greatly. She had no idea when their relationship had become so close. However, regardless, her plan would not change. "Ms. Florian, I was talking to Her Highness. Isn't this too rude of you?" It had to be admitted, Akai's thick skin was truly extraordinary. It was clearly Akai who was being rude, as the princess had a prior appointment with Belian. Moreover, Belian had told her before that actions against someone's will were also violence. Leaky had clearly rejected him, yet he still persisted, refusing to leave. His words made him tremble uncontrollably, his clenched teeth showing how truly angry he was. "Don't imply to Belian I'm not here for you. I'm here for Erhinus," seeing that he couldn't outtalk Belian. He started attacking Leaky again. "Wake up, Your Highness. How long are you going to disappoint the Empress? Aren't you worried about your political position?" If something happens to the Empress's child and it's a boy as the oracle predicted, you'll only fail in the struggle for the throne. That's why I'm telling you, if you're willing to rely on me, I will help you. He was met only with the princess's coldness, because Leaky had no intention of dating a trash who threatened her with succession to the throne. Being so belittled, Kylie armed with love, what a joke, she didn't actually love the princess. The princess was just a way to keep Billion by her side forever. Duke, come here. I didn't want to make a big deal out of this. What a pity, take the princess away. And immediately drag out anyone who interferes with my conversation with the princess. I didn't want to do anything unreasonable. But these are all the Empress's wishes. This man doesn't understand deception, and he's also the sixth son. He promised the Empress he would help her get pregnant as a friend, but then turned around and told the princess about it in front of Billion, squatting down because he couldn't win the argument. Billion raised his hand to call the guards to drag him away, and even blamed these disrespectful actions on the Empress. This series of actions successfully shocked the princess, but hurting Billion was absolutely not allowed, so even if it was the Empress's wish, anyone who dared to lay a hand on Billion should be prepared to be punished. The next second, his hand was firmly gripped by the sixth son, forcefully pulling him towards the room. It was then that Billion realized something was wrong. In the novel, when Leaky came of age, she had previously fallen into despair due to being ignored by the Empress and Emperor. In a moment of intense suffering, she awakened as a magician, so in this current situation, Leaky should clearly be able to use magic, but she wasn't using it. Billion suddenly realized that because of their encounter, Leaky's awakening had been delayed. At this moment, Billion blew Luo Jian's whistle, the sharp sound almost deafening Akai, to make sure her father and Max could hear. Billion blew with all her might, her little face turning red from the effort the next second. The whistle was snatched away by Akai, who was furious at Billion's attempt to signal for help. Ignoring Billion's injured board, he ordered people to take the princess to the room. As for his ex-girlfriend Billion, he would personally drag her down in the midst of the chaos. Akai was kicked hard in the kidney. Today, in my name, send Akafin to the S.H. Werson Marquis family to hold the body of their stupid son, Akai. Go to hell, it was Crown Prince Max Arkit protecting his wife in person. His appearance was unexpected to everyone. Especially Billion, she never thought it would be the Crown Prince who came. It wasn't until she carefully examined the Crown Prince's back that she noticed something was off. At this moment, Max was like a demon from hell. How dare this bastard come here to provoke Billion again? Ik had tried to make excuses, but Max stepped on him harder, making him unable to speak. Just then, Billion's cough was heard. He looked very uncomfortable at this moment. What's wrong? He had been coughing since earlier suddenly. The red mark on his waist caught his attention, and he realized that Billion was injured again. Even he, who was too precious to touch, was injured. Max's rational line broke at this moment. He grabbed Ik's collar, lifted him high in the air. You bastard. You might as well die here, with a wave of his hand. Ik was slammed heavily against the wall. As for those guards under Ik, he would kill them all on charges of insulting the royal family, as the guards prepared to fight back. Ik, dragging his weakened body, raised his hand to stop them, because if they'd touched the crown prince, things would get complicated. Stop. Everything I did was on the queen's orders. The queen told me to entertain the princess. The only response he got was, shut up. Did he think Max would be afraid if he mentioned the queen? He doesn't even listen to his own father, let alone the queen's orders. It's utterly ridiculous. These small fries, he could knock them all down with just a few punches. One of them was Ik, you're finished, let me end you myself. This was the first time Ik had been so close to death. Seeing this, Lychee hurried forward to stop him, because if Ik died, this matter would blow up, but Max showed no intention of stopping. It wasn't until Billion spoke that Max finally stopped. He didn't want to kill someone in front of his girlfriend by the time he put away his sword. Ik had already fainted from fear. Because of a heroic rescue scene, the crown prince got the chance to dance with the duke's daughter. She had dreamed of this countless times. The sudden realization of this dream made her feel unreal, until she felt the warmth in her palm. She finally believed it wasn't a dream. The perfect couple swayed in the center of the dance floor, making people exclaim how well matched they were. But Billion, who was smiling just a second ago, suddenly turned cold as if she had become a different person. She put her arm around the crown prince's neck. Is it fun playing with me? Max realized that when the crown prince appeared earlier, he had whistled. The person who would come would either be his father or Max, and the crown prince wouldn't appear because of a whistle. Max was thunderstruck after hesitating for a moment. He still stubbornly said he didn't understand because he had deliberately used a different voice than usual. He was confident that his disguise wouldn't be seen through. Her face turning pale with anger, put her hand on his shoulder. Miss, I think you've misunderstood something. The next second, her hand was ruthlessly thrown off. I'll be waiting for you at the balcony at the left end. Come find me there, I have something to say. Her cold tone made his heart tremble. His instinct told him that if he didn't follow her this time, it would be over between him and Billion. Just thinking about it made him feel a sense of dizziness. He couldn't accept such an ending. He hurriedly followed. Billion, who had arrived earlier, was feeling the cold wind. She felt stupid for only realizing now that the crown prince was Max. Everything had actually been obvious from the start. Max, despite being a commoner, had an arrogant tone and occasionally showed elegant gestures. She had thought he was just an illegitimate child from a rich family, taken in by her father out of kindness because he had nowhere else to go, but his true identity turned out to be the crown prince she should have been avoiding the most. Billion felt ashamed of her own stupidity. At this moment, Max came looking for her. He was still wearing his mask, clearly intending to keep up the act until the end since he was treating her like a fool. She didn't need to listen to his explanations anymore. A while ago, you asked me if I would be willing to end our contract relationship and date you for real. I haven't answered you yet, have I? I was originally planning to tell you after the banquet, but I must answer you now. Max, I reject your confession. Max felt as if the sky had fallen. After all, our relationship is meaningless. Isn't it, just like how you've been hiding your identity as the crown prince from me? These words were like knives. Cutting into Max's heart, he tried to keep himself calm, but his trembling voice still betrayed his panic. It was too late to say anything now. From the conclusion, it was a fact that he had lied to Belian. I'll take my leave now, Your Highness. It was an honor to have this last dance with you. Before she finished speaking, Max fell to his knees with a thud. This action startled Belian. I was wrong. I didn't mean to hide my true identity from you, but you were so afraid of me. I was afraid that if I told you my identity, you would leave me. Please, please think about it again. Belian, please, agree to let me protect you by your side for a lifetime. No matter how Belian tried to make him get up, he refused. He apologized over and over again just to seek Belian's forgiveness. As for why he would go to such lengths, even Belian couldn't understand what was his true heart. As Belian removed the mask, Max underneath had already become a tearful mess. Just because his true identity was discovered, his girlfriend wanted to break up with him. No matter how he apologized, his girlfriend wouldn't forgive him. It wasn't until the moment the mask was removed that his girlfriend was moved, because the boyfriend beneath the mask had already cried his eyes out. Even so, he didn't forget to express his true feelings. This scene would melt even a stone, let alone his girlfriend who truly loved him. At this moment, Max was like a cat abandoned by its owner, with large tears streaming down. Belian also wanted to believe the words of someone who loved him so much, but if the Max he knew was the Crown Prince, then everything about the Crown Prince in his past life's memories must have been a misunderstanding, right? He wanted Max to stop crying, but how could he stop his tears? Lost in thought, he inexplicably lowered his head and kissed him. Coupled with a captivating smile, Max indeed stopped crying. His large hand touched his girlfriend's clothes, pulling the back of her head to return the kiss. At this moment, it was as if time had stopped and they fully felt each other's breath. It was good that the misunderstanding could be resolved smoothly. Only when Billion was out of breath did Max reluctantly pull away. He promised that he would never deceive him again. No matter how unreasonable or demanding Billion's requests might be, Max would agree without complaint. He had mistaken such an adorable cat for a tyrant, which now seemed laughable if you asked Max why he didn't tell him the truth earlier. It was because whenever the Crown Prince was mentioned, Billion's expression was like he had seen a demon from hell. Anyone would have found it hard to speak up. Thinking back to when they first met, Billion was indeed like that, no doubt about it. As for the rumors about the Crown Prince's tendency towards violence, they were all spread by the Queen's orders. Billion now knew very clearly that his cat was a gentle and kind person. Meanwhile, in the underground prison of the palace, Regis was searching for clues. This place was built as a containment facility to manage the Empire's serious criminals. He had long known this was just a front. After the war ended, Maria had been very uneasy because innocent magicians were inexplicably kidnapped and imprisoned here. He didn't want to set foot in this place again, but there were barriers on all sides. And he needed the guy's magic. The shining gem on his eye was given by Devon, an artificial communicator that could be used within 100 meters. As long as this was installed, it would light up when they got close. But the presence that appeared now was clearly not Devon's. Regis instantly hid as he thought. The one who came was Count Pales. The Emperor's confidant, not only did he know Regis was here, but he also had the communicator from Debin, so Debin had been captured by them. And the Dog Emperor was using Debin to lure Regis out not long ago. When Debin was secretly investigating the Emperor, he was discovered, so the Dog Emperor turned the tables and set a trap. We just caught him, and while we were interrogating him, Debin tried to use magic to escape. Because of this, the Emperor learned his identity 10 years ago. He was the magician from the Florian territory who was declared dead. I see you've been using this method to secretly replace all the Empire's magicians. Duke Regis of Florian, treating these magicians as deceased persons. This was why the Emperor had been unable to find them all this time, however. In the Emperor's eyes, Regis was just a mad dog that didn't recognize its master and would bite at any moment. How did your wife die? Have you forgotten so quickly? What's this? Do you want your daughter to meet the same fate? His most beloved wife died by his hand, and now the instigator, the Dog Emperor, was not only in a weakened state, but also rubbing salt in the Duke's wounds. Even threatening him with his only daughter, the usually calm Regis finally lost control of his emotions. Keeping the Dog Emperor on a leash until now had been his biggest mistake. He now wanted to tear him to pieces, releasing a powerful pressure that filled the entire Dark Tower. Pale stood in front of the Dog Emperor on high alert, but the Dog Emperor laughed at this moment, successfully restarting the long-dormant Gilk with the magic power snatched from Debin. The next second, a strange beam of light hit Regis. The shadowy figure of the evil dragon Papni appeared in the void, and invisible chains began to coil upwards from the ground. Long time no see, Regis. I had many things I wanted to ask you. To think you reversed time, I didn't expect anyone else to know about this, but fortunately, Papni's voice could only be heard by Regis. Tell me, how did you feel when you killed everyone who caused your daughter's suicide that day? Huh, your beloved wife died and the precious daughter she left behind also died, rather than living in such a world. Wouldn't it be better to destroy everything? Regis's pupils visibly crawled with a strange color. In the last moment before his sanity was devoured, the only one he worried about was you, Billion, at the same time. Billion suddenly shuddered as if hearing his father's call through some psychic connection, but when he turned around, there was nothing. A vague sense of unease rose in his heart. And he looked at Max. Do you know where my father is? However, at this moment, his father was like an iron block kneeling before the Emperor. Because the villain who wants to destroy this world is most suitable for the hero who saves the world to defeat. As Regis lost his last bit of resistance, Debing's last hope was shattered. Even the Dog Emperor's confidant was dumbfounded. In contrast, the Dog Emperor laughed with glee. You finally look like a dog on a chain. Come on, Regis, dispose of this one with your own hands. Suddenly, Debington let out an evil shout. The next second, Regis' foot was already within Regis. He was like an emotionless killing machine, even facing his precious friend. There was no emotion in his eyes. In Regis' inner world, the evil dragon Papuni was still brainwashing him. It's been a long time since you've killed, hasn't it? It's time to reawaken your past life's killing skills. Come, borrow my power in exchange for your freedom. Kill, let me see again. Just like when you killed everyone in the palace after your daughter died. Kill him. At the critical moment, his wife's voice suddenly came. It's me. Regis, it's you who wants to protect the precious ones. Look closely. Didn't you always say my eyes were beautiful? The two voices rose and fell. And Regis's head was splitting with pain. It wasn't your fault, I don't blame you. You chose to become like this to protect me, didn't you? Don't give up. I love you in the end. His wife's words briefly took the upper hand and Regis' pupils gradually became lighter. The Kilkai's boundary in the Dog Emperor's hand fizzled and lost its glow as if broken. Taking advantage of this moment, Regis turned his sword and stabbed his own thigh. This sword stroke also cut the ropes on Debing, enduring the intense pain. He leaned to his friend's ear and barely squeezed out the words, "Run away." Debing didn't let Regis' sacrifice go in vain and successfully escaped from the dungeon. At this time, Pupuni's voice echoed in his ears again. You really disappoint me. Do you already imagine you can escape from my hands? I really don't understand why you want to refuse me. I am the only one in this world who understands your past and present lives. I truly sympathize with you. The matters of your daughter and wife are heartbreaking. A hero who saved the Empire but couldn't save his own life and family. This Empire has never done anything for you, so join forces with me to destroy this Empire. At this point, Regis' copper-colored eyes were once again occupied by an eerie red. After the Duke was controlled by Kilkai's boundary, he returned to the venue with the Dog Emperor. Due to Regis' sudden resistance, the hard-caught magician had escaped, and most of the stolen magic power was consumed, however, seeing Regis so obedient. The Dog Emperor didn't need to worry about him rebelling in the short term. Villain happily found his father but was greeted by a cold poker face. This father was one he had never seen before, and Villain felt a chill. Only after Regis had walked far away did the cat, who had been hiding in the bushes, poke his head out. He was very worried about his girlfriend because the master had suddenly left like that. Villain finally expressed his inner worries. Max, I mean. What if I'm imprisoned for killing the royal family? As the crown prince, would you torture and kill me? The one who killed your family. Hearing this, Max was shocked. After all, for him, family was only his girlfriend and master. Even if he was asked to change his name to Max Freud from today, he would do so without hesitation. Even if that really happened, Master would definitely use some means. To save his own daughter, Master would surely use him or do something himself. Villain finally resolved his doubts. At that time, his father did that to protect him. It was all a misunderstanding. Moreover, in this life, his father was different from usual. He became kind and always doted on him. All signs indicated that his father truly loved him. So why was he always so distant from him in his previous life? Perhaps his father had some unspeakable circumstances, and his appearance just now should be the reason for his coldness towards his daughter in the past. At this moment, Villain made a secret resolution to uncover the truth about why his father tried so hard to distance himself in his previous life. A week had passed since the princess's coming-of-age ceremony. During this time, Villain hadn't spoken to his father. Every time he went to find his father would respond with various reasons. He didn't know why his father had been so busy lately. He suddenly missed the father who used to pester him to have dinner together. Thinking that his father might be deliberately avoiding him, Villain became even more depressed. At this time, the maid brought in dessert. Suddenly, Max leaned over and gestured not to speak. He tapped on the tray in the maid's hand, indicating her to hand over the tray to him. Marine Lee tried hard to suppress her gloom, smiling at Max as he walked towards his girlfriend, just as Villain was about to eat the dessert. The next second, a lump of cake was stuffed into his mouth. The sweet taste spread instantly in his mouth, and he didn't even notice the cat coming to his side. This was their first meeting since they confirmed their romantic relationship. Their faces turned red with embarrassment. When did you arrive? Before the question was finished? Another piece of cake was stuffed into the mouth. I came right over as soon as I finished my business. What's troubling you? How come you didn't even hear me coming? The sudden closeness made Billion's face turn so red it could drip blood. Don't you usually notice quickly? Have you lost interest in me now? The rapid-fire questions irritated him. It's not that I'm not interested in you, but you haven't come to see me in so long. Don't you miss me? The next second, the cat's big hand reached out, pulling him into an embrace from behind. The cat generously expressed his longing. This week without seeing you, I was dying of misery. In an instant, Bellion's heart started pounding from the flirtation. Considering that Max had kept his promise to write to him, he'd forgive him this time. Even just being held in his arms like this made him feel warm and happy. Suddenly, warm childhood memories flooded his mind. These memories that didn't belong to him yet were clearly his made his head throb with pain. Faced with this sudden change, Max became restless, cupping his girlfriend's face and repeatedly urging, "Don't get sick. Lying down to sleep for a while might help." Regis had just arrived to witness this scene, suppressing his anger. He politely knocked on the door. The old father, busy for a week, finally had time to check on things properly unexpectedly. Arriving at his daughter's door, he saw that Max kid with a red face, shamelessly coaxing his underage daughter to sleep. He never thought that as soon as he wasn't around, his home would be taken over by his disciple. This was intolerable. Villain, the first to react, looked horrified. She hurriedly pushed the cat away. "Their face is still close, father. It's a misunderstanding." That her words were cut off midway by Regis. "I think it's very necessary for me to have a private talk with Max." Max followed his master, feeling extremely anxious. He didn't know what he had done wrong, why his master always seemed displeased with him. Suddenly, as if remembering something, Max stared intently at his master's head. A statement of "your leg is injured" successfully reignited Regis' anger. "I'm not injured, don't try to test me." He knew, of course, that this was a lie, because a few days ago, the person sent to follow Pales reported the results. On the day of the princess's coming-of-age ceremony, Pales had imprisoned a man of unknown identity in the dungeon. A few hours later, the emperor rushed to the scene. Then Duke Florian also went in. Although they couldn't follow into the dungeon, the duke seemed suspicious. When he came out of the dungeon, there was blood on his leg later. When he returned to the banquet hall, he had already cleaned himself up. Max didn't understand why his master pretended as if nothing had happened. Enduring everything alone, Regis led him to the dance practice room, then tossed him a sword. "I once asked my daughter what kind of man was her ideal type. Do you know what she said the first time? A man stronger than her father. If you want to have billion, then surpass me. Max? After the Emperor used the power of the rain, Regis only regained consciousness half a day after the princess's coming-of-age ceremony ended, although he luckily managed to break free from the ring's control quickly. The problem was that the dog Emperor had discovered Debin's existence. Originally, Regis had planned to definitely break the contract with the ring this time, but the dog Emperor actually used the power of the long, unused rain, once again ordering him around like a dog, and he almost became a terrifying monster again. Like before, nearly killing the person he cherished with his own hands. Damn Talia's, this time he would tear him apart with his own hands, but to succeed, he first had to break free from the ring's constraints. Talia's, unable to use magic when activating the Kirk Rain, stole Debin's magic power to control the rain. In other words, as long as there was no magician whose power he could steal, the dog Emperor wouldn't be able to control him. As long as Debin wasn't caught, he could still buy some time. He needed to find Debin before the Emperor did, so he painfully refused Belian's invitation and wandered alone through the black market streets, asking Debin's old friends, but Talia's pets were everywhere here too. Debin couldn't possibly come. Even their contact base, the Florian family cemetery, showed no signs of his visit, and now with people watching everywhere, smuggling seemed unlikely, so where on earth could he be hiding? Even his last hope, his brother Selly, had no news. Now there was only one option left. Max picked up the sword. Surpassed me. I can't possibly hand over my precious daughter to someone weaker than me. Defeat me in this duel to execute his plan with peace of mind. The old father decided to entrust his daughter to someone worthy. At present, the only one who basically met the conditions was his disciple Max, but he couldn't possibly hand over his precious daughter to someone weaker than himself. So he brought Max to the training ground, demanding that he defeat him in a duel to become Belian's partner. Max was determined to win this battle. He was no longer the child he used to be, but his full-force strike was easily parried by Regis. In Regis's view, both his swordsmanship and emotional control were full of openings, unsatisfied. Max swung his sword again, but was once more effortlessly knocked down by Regis. The future father-in-law successfully provoked his master. The moment he saw the veins bulging on his forearm, he knew he couldn't dodge this strike. Sure enough, the next second, his handsome face was cut open. He was knocked back by his master's powerful aura. The one who can't control their emotions is clearly the master to unleash his disciples' potential. Regis brought up the late Empress again since childhood. He had staked his most beloved person to motivate Max's growth. Indeed, this tactic never failed. Max regained his fighting spirit and launched an attack, but against absolute power. Everything was in vain. The sword in his hand was directly knocked away. Although people call him a monster, the real monster is clearly the master. Someone who couldn't even withstand one of his moves wasn't worthy of being with his precious daughter. At the critical moment, Billion arrived just in time. The lifelong dad successfully prevented a tragedy from happening. At this point, the 21-year-old crown prince narrowly survived thanks to Billion, and Billion blushed because he called him dad like a child. Regis also stuttered because of this, dad, finding it hard to believe that Billion had called him dad. The last time he called him, that was the last time. Just as Billion was regretting his slip of the tongue, those images not in his memory flooded into his mind like a tide. It was a sunny afternoon back then. Little Billion toddled towards his mom and dad. He had prepared gifts for them. Wanting to make his parents look as beautiful as himself, the family of three was so warm and happy then. Billion's head ached terribly again. Regis immediately noticed his daughter's discomfort. The father and daughter asked with concern, but their appearance made Billion somewhat panicked. I'm sorry I was too rude just now. Accidentally calling you dad like a child. Regis was too happy to care. Billion could call him that any time she wanted. It would be his honor. Looking at such a gentle father, combined with the warm scene just now, Billion's eyes welled up. He didn't even know why. Was this a desire from his heart? With the atmosphere like this, he stopped thinking and simply followed his heart, crying uncontrollably. This frightened the two grown men before him. Regis crouched down and kept apologizing, though he didn't know what he had done wrong, because father has seemed particularly gentle recently. Very different from before. I thought you would finally be nicer to me. But after the banquet, you suddenly became cold like before, so I thought you were going to be distant again. I was worried. The old father lowered his head guiltily, realizing his sharp tongue had deeply hurt Billion. Max, unable to bear seeing his girlfriend cry, also spoke up for his master. Father-in-law is naturally a man of few words. Even I don't know what he's thinking. At these words, Billion couldn't help but laugh. That's right, Dad really talks too little, and he's so earnest about everything. You can't find a smile on his face even with a lantern. Exactly. Always wearing such a serious expression, no one dares to talk to him. Indeed, the back and forth between the two made the accused Regis extremely embarrassed, actually. It's much better than before after getting married, since narrowly surviving at the hands of his future father-in-law. The crown prince's behavior became even more unrestrained. He even held his girlfriend's hand in front of his future father-in-law. The intolerable Regis finally couldn't bear it anymore, slamming his cup on the table and stating with a dark face that he still hadn't approved of Max. Before Max could defeat him, he was forbidden from having excessive physical contact with Villain. Also, the overstepping title of father-in-law, how could Max obey? He held Villain's delicate hand, blushing as he said he was comforting her. This presumptuous behavior provoked Regis to gently pick up his daughter. Cake is enough comfort. Now let go of that annoying hand immediately. Only then did Max reluctantly let go. To be honest, he didn't quite understand, thinking of the killing intent from his master earlier. Perhaps that was just an excuse to oppose their relationship. Regis' anger suddenly flared up. He wasn't the type to say one thing and do another. Moreover, his master had been calling him weak since earlier, but he was at least the tyrannical monarch of this empire. Belian suddenly laughed out loud because this nickname was too terrifying. Her determination not to date the crown prince seemed like just yesterday. The perceptive Regis immediately noticed something was amiss. Max had been hiding his identity from Belian all along upon learning that his daughter only found out Max's true identity at the princess's coming-of-age ceremony. Regis was furious. He had always thought his daughter knew and still wanted to date such a crude fellow. While Belian thought her father wanted to marry her off to the crown prince and had a contract relationship with Max, it turned out her father opposed them because he knew Max's identity. After 0.618 seconds of silence, Max scratched his head and played dumb. It's good that you found out the crown prince is such a lovable man this way. Really thank heavens, right? Ha ha ha, what greeted him was his master's fury, wanting to tear him apart on the spot. Belian, seeing this, tried to retreat. The next second, Regis's large hands slammed on the dining table. You ungrateful wretch, how dare you deceive us? But Max looked completely unabashed. How can this be deception? I just didn't say anything. Speaking of deception, it's rather master. How long were you planning to keep it from me? What exactly is the Ring of Kilk? It turned out Max had secretly sent people to investigate Devon's identity. He was a magician from the Florian territory who had been recorded as dead 10 years ago. Moreover, according to the investigation, he had been in frequent contact with Duke Florian recently, but after the current emperor's passing, the Arched Empire had established a law prohibiting anyone except the royal family from using magic. Since then, rumors have said that all the empire's magicians hid their identities and fled to the empire. However, in noble circles, there has always been a rumor that the emperor actually imprisoned them in the underground prison of the palace, using them for some kind of experiment. In fact, from a certain period, no trace of magicians could be found anywhere in the empire. They also received an anonymous item from Bruce. The text on the barrel was the same as the code his master taught him to use on the battlefield when he was young. It said for the future son as Max anonymously decoded the message. The bamboo tube burst open with a dazzling golden light, carefully taking out the document inside. His pupils dilated at first glance, earthquake. He now needed to know everything his master knew about the guilt's boundary. But even though he had said this much, his master still intended to play dumb. What on earth is the guilt's sword? I really don't know what you're talking about. Please stop avoiding it. What did you do with the emperor in the dungeon on the day of the princess's coming of age? I've investigated the man who was with you that day, de Bybonce. You made his identity into the death group to protect him from being discovered by my father, didn't you? And this, I guess he sent it to me. The will of the magician who helped the emperor, you went to the dungeon with him to get this. Right at this point, Regis finally showed a different emotion. With the arrival of an anonymous letter, the mystery surrounding the Duke surfaced. This was the will written by the magician who had helped the emperor years ago. Full of guilt before his death, it was he who, under Talia's orders, stole the magic power of many colleagues and gave it to Talia's. Even though he knew that without magic power these people would soon die, he still did it. After the war broke out, the emperor wanted more magic power. He even kidnapped women and children. Just because he became curious about the emperor's endless evil deeds, why did Talia's need magic power when he clearly couldn't understand magic contracts or manipulate magic? Later, he learned about the father of the first emperor of the Ashid Empire, who was also the evil dragon Papu who wanted to destroy the empire. And Gilk, the magic goddess who protected the magicians of the Ashid Empire. He used his own magic power to seal Papuni in the magic eye of Gilk, the ring that the emperor wore on his hand all the time, like it was a part of his body. Next, this magician wrote down the information he personally found about Gilk's ring during his lifetime, hoping that someone in the future could stop the emperor's evil deeds. First, the owner of the ring can only be royalty. Second, Papu, sealed in the rain, unconditionally obeys the ring owner's orders and provides the power to manipulate the ring in exchange for providing magic power. Third, the contractor who forms a master-servant relationship with the ring's owner and vice versa. Fourth, the current owner is Emperor Talia's Ashit, and the contractor is Regis Fenant. A few sentences in the third point are unclear due to damage and are currently being restored, but the answer Max wanted to know was already clearly written. His master's weakness was Gilk's reign, but he wanted to know what his master had done for the emperor after forming a contract with the reign. Even at this point, Regis still didn't intend to tell him the truth, but if he wins against Regis in a duel, not only will he know the truth about everything, but Regis will also agree to his marriage with Billion in fact. Regis did inform the contract for the emperor, but for training when he was in the palace, when he wasn't doing anything when he was sleeping, she was no longer by his side. As long as he lives, he will forever miss her. His beloved wife Maria, he did it to save her. Meanwhile, at the Black Forest Manor, after being ruthlessly rejected by the princess on the day of the coming-of-age ceremony and severely beaten by the crown prince, Akai had been holed up at home. Numbing himself with alcohol, that day his rarely in contact cousin Radian suddenly visited. He first mocked his cousin's current state, then slowly stated his purpose for coming. If it's difficult to make her like you, why not catch her weakness instead? You know, the first emperor of Ashid was a magician, but after 3 generations, no one in the royal family has appeared who can use magic. Maybe there are magicians in the royal family. We just don't know it. Ikai was sure the crown prince couldn't use magic, because if that guy could use magic, he should have already ascended to the throne and thrown the empire into chaos. Then what about Princess Li Chai? This sentence successfully awakened Ikai. If the princess was a magician, it might be a good thing for him. The damage to the will was successfully repaired, but no one was happy about it. Instead being swallowed by a deep sense of powerlessness, the erased words were confirmed to have been damaged by a third party. And the restoration method was using the code-breaking method taught by the crown prince, combined with the deceased's handwriting. Derived from the remaining traces, the restored coded content was the lives of the contractor and the master are connected. If the master dies, the contractor will also die. However, Max's goal had always been only one, that is, Talia's death and kingship, but his master always said the time wasn't ripe, not only not helping him seize power, but even hiding traces of his rebellion, yet it was precisely because of this that it involved his master's life. Just thinking about Billion falling into despair due to losing her father sent chills down his spine. He had almost subjected his girlfriend to that terrible despair. The master must have had his weakness exploited by the emperor to create such an unreasonable vessel. He kept this secret even from him and concealed it from everyone, surely because even the master didn't know how to get rid of that reign, thinking that if not handled properly, it might backfire and lead to failure under the ring's control, so Max sent the female knight Yulia to monitor Count Pales, the emperor's confidant, and report his movements at any time. The body double Victor was responsible for reviewing books and artifacts from the previous dynasty to investigate matters related to Kilk. He must find a way to break this absurd contract. Ike lost the Empress as his backing because he revealed her pregnancy to the princess, but he held evidence that the princess was a magician and found a more solid backing in Talia's. Ancient books recorded that descendants of the royal family would be born as magicians for several generations, and royal children born as magicians would have red eyes and red hair like the first emperor. Just like Princess Beatrice's friend Ashit, this can be seen from the emperor's actions all along. He completely ignored his own son, not caring whether he lived or died, and there were even rumors that the child wasn't his, yet he kept the princess hidden away in the palace. The princess first appeared before the empire's citizens when Ike was 15 years old. Didn't His Majesty have any expectations for the princess? The soul-searching question stirred up Talia's long-buried memories. Before birth, a magician sensed magic power from the fetus, indicating that a magician might be born in this generation, the moment he saw the red eyes and red hair. He was certain that the child had inherited the royal family's powerful bloodline. This was his only hope. Although the empire's citizens called the emperor a coward in wars against enemy countries, if a powerful magician was born into the royal family, he could restore the authority of the royal house. But as the child grew, no magical power could be sensed in him. The child had ultimately failed to meet his expectations, so he plundered magic power from other magicians and awakened the long-dormant kill. He turned the Empire's hero, Regis, into his slave and thus regained the throne. Now Ike's claim that Leaky was a magician was utterly ridiculous, but the phrase, "I can make her awaken," once again piqued Talia's interest. The princess just hasn't awakened yet when she faces a crisis. Her abilities will naturally awaken because the first emperor also awakened as a magician when his life was in danger. So you want me to put the princess in mortal danger? The overwhelming pressure made Ike tremble all over, but the next second the dog emperor laughed. He never thought he'd see such a madman in his life, but he liked this audacity. Since you dare to stake the royal family's life on your oath, you must be absolutely confident of success. Right, yes, your majesty, and I have one more request if the plan succeeds. Please acknowledge me as the princess's consort. The dog emperor was naturally willing to agree. After all, if Leaky was a magician, he could satisfy his long-starred fear. And he could forever imprison the arrogant Regis. The aloof princess attended her first tea party. Frightening the noble ladies, the duke's daughter's coming-of-age ceremony was approaching, so everyone was invited to help with planning. But Leaky's cold expression made everyone uneasy, until she received an invitation from her good friend Villain. Leaky finally smiled. Of course she would come to her precious Villain's birthday. The scene of pink-bubbled friendship made the gossiping noble ladies exclaim how well matched they were. The reserved ladies instantly opened up. Using seasonality as a party theme is overused, brighter colored curtains would be better. Everyone chimed in and the atmosphere quickly became lively. Leaky's frozen heart began to melt bit by bit. It had been a long time since she felt this at ease. Stained in the palace, she always felt oppressed by her parents. Although it was her home, she always wanted to escape. She felt relaxed and happy just being with Villain. She was truly grateful to have become friends with Villain, but turning around, she was startled by her worthless, foolish brother. At this moment, Max was completely focused on his girlfriend. Just looking at Villain made him blush for no less than a second. He immediately came over with your big build. Do you think you're some little sparrow? I can't stand you as a friend. How can you speak so rudely to your brother? Besides, I came here because I had business, and just stopped by to see you. Hearing this, Villain's anger flared up. Who do you think you are, daring to see Villain? Villain is my precious friend who only has me in her heart. Upon hearing this, Max smirked. It's time to tell you the truth, I'm Villain's husband. His smug expression disgusted Leaky. You lunatic, are you dreaming? At this moment, Villain came over. Drawn by Max's scent, he quickly leaned close to his sister's ear and whispered, anyway, the conclusion is that Villain is my wife, but this is still a secret. You haven't forgotten the favor I did by rescuing you from Ike, have you? If you want to repay me, just pretend you didn't hear this. Okay, turning to face Villain, he put on a bright expression. Ah, Villain, I'm here. Unable to bear it any longer, Leaky hurriedly fled. It turned out Max had come to practice with his master. He refused the suggestion to greet the noble ladies. After all, that girl Leaky couldn't act at all. And more importantly, he couldn't reveal his true identity to others yet. Because at any time, there were vermin trying to exploit his weaknesses. In this world, few people knew he was the crown prince, apart from his master and a few colleagues. Only Bellion knew his true identity. The servants in this household only knew him as the Duke's disciple. Those who wanted to exploit his weakness were not the princess's weapons. Although they appeared to be mortal enemies in others' eyes, they didn't actually covet each other's possessions. But after Elizabeth, the current empress, occupied that position, his life was constantly under threat. Seeing that it was difficult to eliminate the crown prince by poisoning, he began to maliciously spread rumors everywhere. The master was angry about this, but Max thought it was fine. The atmosphere at the border was already unusual, so he simply let this rumored killer be, making everyone afraid to provoke him casually. However, he didn't expect that this would leave such a bad impression on Villain if he had known earlier that he would meet someone so worth cherishing. Perhaps he wouldn't have chosen such an extreme method back then. As soon as he finished speaking, his girlfriend hugged him tightly. You've had it tough these days. Both her father and Max loved her very much. Everything seemed perfect, but strangely, Villain still felt uneasy. You're not hiding anything from me. Are you? Max answered bitterly. Of course not, because although he wasn't hiding anything from Villain now, there was still his master's secret. The Duke's daughter visited late at night, and her father was mistaken for the mansion's butler. It wasn't long until Villain's coming-of-age ceremony. Money is not an issue. It should be the grandest coming-of-age ceremony in the Empire. Hearing this, Villain's face turned as red as a monkey's bottom. With one dad, I successfully broke through the old father's defenses. You don't need to do this kind of thing yourself. Billion suddenly became nervous. Dad, I want to prepare my coming of age ceremony myself. The shock in the old father's eyes was evident. Seeing Billion's confident look, he showed a gratified smile. His precious daughter had really grown up. At this moment, the carrier pigeon Sally came flying in urgently. Billion was scared out of her wits and ran out of her father's study. I didn't expect that my daughter, who's about to come of age, is still so afraid of birds. I should properly introduce Sally to her soon. The note on the pigeon's leg quickly caught Regis' attention. It was from his long-lost friend Jebin. I'm contacting you because I think you must be looking for me. Since that day, although I've encountered those people from the dark position a few times, I've luckily not been killed and I'm well hidden now. You should have seen that traitor's letter from your disciple by now. Right, this was the only clue I found in the dark prison that day. Shamefully, there's a lot of content even I can't understand. So I can only rely on you from now on. I probably won't be able to set foot in the Empire again. I sincerely want to help you. I'm really sorry, but Regis didn't need his apology at all. Because for him, it was enough that Debin was still alive. In the end, they still couldn't find a way to remove the ring contract. With the current known clues, there was only one option left. That was to have Max awaken as a transcendent and possess the ability to defeat Regis, who was controlled by Papni. That's why he was frantically practicing with Max, which was full of mistakes. Have you really been training on your own? Your skills haven't improved at all. At this rate, when will you be able to learn what you want to know from me? Actually, Max was also in a difficult position because of his master's secret. He was torn between abandoning the rebellion plan or finding another way, a distracted opening. My sword is right in front of you, yet you dared to be absent-minded before a transcendent sword. How audacious. If this were a battlefield, you'd have lost your head without a doubt. This practice session again ended with Regis' victory. This is Knight Geraldine, the warrior reported to him, having drafted a list of Florian knights who would participate in the upcoming hunting competition. Until now, Florian had maintained a winning streak, and this time they needed to ensure victory as well. Geraldine's body visibly took a punch. It seemed he wasn't the only one suffering from the master's torment. Do you know what the reward for this competition is? I can't remember clearly, but it's not awarded to the knights anyway. The prize is a necklace made of underground flowers, a treasure passed down through generations of the royal family. It has always been passed down by the Ashet royal family, given as an engagement gift to their partners, but looking at the master's expression, he didn't seem very interested. If I tell you that the Black Forest family is also eyeing the underground flower, would that pique your interest? Apparently, there was a rumor that Akai was going to propose to the princess during this competition, and Max wouldn't stand by and watch his sister play with fire. He not only wanted to participate in the competition to show off, but also win the prize. He wanted to use that necklace to propose at Billion's coming-of-age ceremony, the underground flower necklace. Passed down through generations of the royal family as an engagement gift, the crown prince plans to win it in the hunting competition and give it to his partner. This blatant barking drew the displeasure of his future father-in-law. Regardless of whether you win the hunting competition or not, you can't propose to my daughter until you beat me. Pick up your sword again. The practice continued until sunset, and only then did he drag his nearly broken body to find Billion. He was sure that his master definitely wanted to kill him. Billion gently patted his back. My dad is amazing, right? He's the hero among heroes. No one in the Empire is as great as my dad. That's why you find it hard to win. Max, you've already done very well. As Billion went on and on about her father's heroic deeds, Max just felt like dying. His puffed-up appearance was like a startled pufferfish. But the next second he was beaming with joy. With little Billion sitting on his lap, the promised rest turned out to be a trick by someone. After a short while, Billion couldn't hold on anymore. I need to get down, but Max not only didn't let him down, he also ignored Billion's concerns and even mischievously puckered his pig lips to kiss everywhere. Have you been waiting for me all day? The warm breath blew on Billion's ear, scaring him so much he didn't dare to breathe before he could finish speaking. The next second, a strange sensation shot from his collarbone to the top of his head. It was Max. This guy was breaking the rules. Should I go back now? The seductive tone, who could resist? Sure enough, the next second Billion counterattacked. Hugging Max's pig head and started chopping. Only when the feeling of suffocation came did he reluctantly let go. Is this why you said you wanted to rest for a while? Let's wait a bit longer. Max smiled shamelessly. What, don't you like it? Don't do this in the future. 3 questions in a row. Billion was stunned. That's not what I meant, it's just that you were too sudden, is that so? That's why it's even better. Max said flirtatious words with his handsome face. But Belian just fell for this every time, always completely captivated by that face. Belian, can I ask you for something? The next second, a handkerchief was handed to him. It was the one Max had taken from him before going to the battlefield. Max suddenly became shy. Luckily, I had this handkerchief. It helped me persist on the battlefield when I thought of you. His pure appearance made Billion's heart flutter. To him, it was just an ordinary handkerchief. He didn't expect Max would cherish it so much. Then the cat's hand reached out. Could you embroider a pattern on this for me? The palace is about to hold a hunting competition. I want you to encourage me. The cat's sincere look made it hard not to suspect. He must know what embroidery means. It turns out there has always been such a tradition in the empire. Giving someone a hand-embroidered handkerchief means hoping they will return safely. Between lovers, it means I'm always thinking of you. This is equivalent to a confession of love. Blinking at Max, he was still immersed in his own world. Do you really want a handkerchief embroidered by me? The answer was already obvious. This expression could be described as yearning. Belint thought carefully, he seemed to have never taken the initiative to confess. Since Max confessed to him last time, he often had love on his lips. In contrast, he himself didn't take this matter seriously at all. So he decided to take this opportunity to fulfill Max's wish. But reality immediately hit him hard because he was completely incapable of embroidery. What should he do? Your servant can't do it. The crown prince secretly sneaked into his girlfriend's room, hugging and kissing her not only to relieve his longing but also for an unspeakable purpose. That is, a handkerchief embroidered by his girlfriend. He wanted to get his girlfriend's exclusive encouragement in the upcoming hunting competition. Unfortunately, Billion was actually someone who couldn't embroider at all. Max also saw his girlfriend's difficulty, stubbornly saying it's okay if she couldn't find time. But his heart was actually desperately craving it until he heard his girlfriend confirm she would do it. He was so excited that his ears and tail popped out. Just as he was about to leave, he was called back by his girlfriend. She had something to ask, which was for Max to take good care of Leaky in this competition. So the task of protecting the princess fell to the stand-in Victor. Although this guy was a big glib, he was still very capable. But compared to his sister Leaky, Max was more concerned about his girlfriend, Belian, if you want. I cannot participate in the competition and stay by your side, but Belian flatly refused, because he would be very safe watching the competition with his father. This way, those noble men couldn't approach Belian, including Max himself, and Belian's worry about Leaky was not unfounded because according to the original story, after Ik won the hunting competition, he gained the princess's favor, not surprisingly. The person who repelled the suddenly appearing monster attacking Leaky was Ik. With this as a turning point, their relationship became even deeper, but looking at Ik's actions all along. Perhaps at that time he was not purely out of goodwill when he repelled the monster and rescued Leaky. Billion reconsidered and came to a conclusion. In his previous life, Ik didn't approach out of love for the princess, but to use her this life he just exposed his true nature earlier. Fortunately, Billion knew the monster's weakness. At least he could be prepared, but compared to this, there was now an even more serious problem. He wanted to embroider a dragon. But it looked more like a cat. If he asked Merlin for help, Max would surely be disappointed if he found out. In the midst of his troubles, Regis came. He had something to give Billion. He had originally planned to give it at his daughter's coming-of-age ceremony, but Billion would also be attending the hunting competition soon. This necklace was the only love Regis had, a treasure left to protect his daughter and also a relic Mario left for Billion. It turns out that more than 10 years ago, when Billion was still a baby in swaddling clothes, Maria had already started preparing. Every day he transferred a bit of his magic power into this magic crystal. As long as Billion wore it, his power could protect her. Unfortunately, he never got to hand it to Billion personally. But strangely, Billion had no memory of her mother at all a few days ago for a moment. An image of her mother and father flashed in her mind and she looked very happy. That was very unfamiliar to her. Like wearing clothes she wasn't used to, she didn't know if her mother loved her too. The next moment he was embraced by his father. Without a doubt, Maria truly loved him. His existence was precious to both Regis and Maria, but this was completely at odds with the scenes in his dream. In the dream, his mother said his father was a monster and kept threatening him, and he was still concerned about the look in his father's eyes, which was the same as what the princess saw in the adult world. There were still too many unresolved questions. As the troubled days passed, before they knew it, the day of the hunting competition had arrived. Everyone seemed excited about the hunting competition that was held only once every few years. It was a precious opportunity to defeat families of higher ranks. Max's attention was quickly drawn to a commotion. It was his future father-in-law and the fairy daughter making a dazzling entrance. Belian was as beautiful as ever today. The father and daughter were the most eye-catching presence wherever they went. The last to enter was the Florian Knight Order. Today they were dressed in white knight uniforms. Riding white horses, looking like princes on white steeds to the uninformed, seeing the love-struck crowd, the small group tried even harder to show off, especially that Geraldine kid, widening his eyes and trying to look sexy, all just to leave a good impression on the ladies. Of course, this was just the appetizer. Everyone, don't forget, we are here to protect the Ache Empire, the latest empire, for the infinite glory of Florian. This shout immediately sent the noble ladies into a frenzy, in contrast. Their master was petrified on the spot. Seeing more and more people joining in, Regis felt his face burning with embarrassment. The existence of knights was supposed to be for cutting off enemies' necks, so Regis decided that after today's competition, he would severely punish these beasts. The hunting competition, with its undercurrents, began as scheduled, and the main characters of the event arrived according to the original plot. Meanwhile, in a hidden corner not far from the venue, a huge conspiracy was brewing. The magical beast, the diamond wolf, which should have been dwelling deep in the forest, was imprisoned here by someone with ulterior motives, waiting only for the dog emperor's command as events unfolded. Billion, in order to prevent tragedy, quietly slipped out of the audience. He was here to see his boyfriend Max, the embroidered handkerchief his boyfriend had longed for. He had rushed to finish day and night. There was also a secret weapon against magical beasts, a sachet whose fragrance could protect Max from harm. This buy one get one free gesture moved Max deeply, and at this moment only a kiss could express the joy in his heart. Meanwhile, on the other side, the dog emperor smiled sinisterly. As long as he could make Richie awaken as a magician, he could go along with whatever Yeek I wanted to do. Tell him to start quickly towards Perez. At this moment, Richie suddenly wanted to change seats. He wanted to watch the competition with his best friend Villian, but his reasonable request was flatly refused by the Empress. On a day like this, it depended on who his marriage partner was. Unexpectedly, the Emperor's voice came next. It's fine. Go watch with your friends, but the Empress isn't wrong. The royal family is always the center of attention wherever they go, so you need to be constantly aware of others' gazes. I prepared a special seat just for you, so go enjoy with your friends, but a dog can't change its habit of eating feces. The reason he reserved a seat for Richie was because Yekai had specifically emphasized, I must have the princess sit in the seat I prepared. Richie, unaware, was sold out by his father and even helped count the money. Moreover, having someone constantly following him also made the usually confident Richie uncomfortable. He had already told his brother that he could protect his own safety. His stubborn personality was just like Max's. Fortunately, Billion came to the rescue in time. At this moment, the invisible Devon walked past Billion. The necklace left by Boyan Mariah began to glow golden. Long time no see. Billion, before the words faded, the light emitted by the magic crystal grew stronger. Sensing something was wrong, Billion suddenly turned around and saw a strange old man with a kind face. You really do look more like Mario. Just then, Richie patted his shoulder. What are you spacing out for? Billion wanted to say something, but when he turned back, Devon had vanished. It was only then that he realized that man was only visible to them. Seeing that Regis had also come looking for his daughter who he hadn't seen for a while, he quickly noticed that the magic crystal had changed color. And this color was the same as when Terias took away Devon's magic stone and the magic crystal emitted light. He nervously asked Billion where he had been. And after instructing Billion to definitely go check, he ordered Jade to closely protect them. Then Regis hurriedly rushed towards the eastern forest, but was urgently grabbed by Billion. The next second, he had an extra sachet in his hand, identical to Max's. This is a charm that will protect you. It's a thank you gift for the present you gave me yesterday. He hoped this charm could be of some help. Looking at his daughter's hands full of wounds, he suddenly realized that his daughter had been burning the midnight oil these past few days to make this. Gently stroking his daughter's head, he promised to cherish it. Then he walked towards the depths of the forest without looking back. Seeing this, Billion felt a vague sense of unease rising in his heart, but his thoughts were quickly interrupted by the calls of a group of young ladies. Everyone was expressing their opinions one after another. They were all curious about who would ultimately win the competition. At this moment, Billion opened the box he was carrying. Inside were neatly arranged secret sachets. It turned out he had thought of everyone around him, thoughtfully preparing the sachet for each person. Meanwhile, Regis was desperately searching for Debiang's whereabouts. The light emitted by the billion necklace must have been a deliberate mark left by Debiang to lead him here. Sure enough, the next second, Debbie's voice sounded from behind. Can you hear my voice? Don't turn around, there are disguised imperial shadows everywhere. The girl witnessed her father killing her mother. Now he finally understood what his mother meant by dad is a monster. To make his daughter forget the heart-piercing pain, on the day of his wife's funeral, Regis asked his friend to seal all of his daughter's memories before that point. But Billion was about to come of age, which meant the day to recover her memories was approaching. However, Regis would rather his daughter never remember that terrible past. Seeing this, Debin comforted him warmly. Maria's death wasn't your fault. Stop carrying that guilt, don't miss the chance to give your daughter back her memories. Because after becoming an adult, the sealed memories won't come back. In Belian's sealed memories, it's not just Maria's death, but all those precious memories accumulated since childhood. Why hide them? But if that happens, she'll know how much I love her. Then when I disappear from this world, Belian will suffer as if pierced by thousands of arrows. Just like I did when I lost Maria, she'll live on bearing the same sorrow as me. Do you remember what you said to her in the last second before sealing Billion's memories? If you say those words to her, her memories will return. I came this time to tell you this. Suddenly, a dog's bark was heard. It was the dog Emperor Talias who had found them. He had followed Regis when he suddenly disappeared, and as expected, stumbled upon a conspiracy. Even if you try to hide, it's useless. I can hear your voice talking to someone clearly. You must be hiding nearby. The rat who escaped earlier, hearing this, Debiang panicked internally, even if he wanted to run now. It was too late because the dog emperor had already set up a barrier. This was all thanks to the magic power he had stolen from him earlier. It turned out that not only could the dog emperor steal others' magic power, but he could also use the magic his master could control through the rain. In other words, Debin was trapped by his own ability. A series of confusing actions succeeded, making Regis directly call out the dog emperor's name. You can't do anything without the rain, you sure talk a lot. This blatant disrespect angered the emperor greatly. Disobedient slaves must be disciplined until they submit. But in the next second, he lost all his previous confidence, because Regis had drawn his sword and placed it against his throat. If you activate the rain, I'll die right here, because our lives are connected. If you want to control me, you'll have to risk your own life too. The dog emperor hesitated for 2 seconds. I don't know whose nonsense you've been listening to, but whether their words are right or wrong, cutting off Regis' neck will reveal the truth. At the crucial moment, the emperor chickened out, his reaction proving that the contents of the will were true. Actually, in the damaged part of the will, the most important thing before seeing Julius' restored version, Regis had already guessed the content. The lives of the contractor and the master are connected, and conversely, if the master dies, the contractor will die too. And Pap, who signed the contract with Talias, would absolutely not brainwash the dog emperor. He only made a deal with the emperor to control Regis in order to be released from the sealed ring and to bring down this empire. Papni had also said in person, the most suitable person to let the hero who saves the world go is the villain who destroys this world. Therefore, for Patni, Regis absolutely cannot die. This way, the contents of the will made sense. After this reasoning, Talias became increasingly agitated to no longer be a pawn of the dog emperor. Regis was determined to end his own life. I won't let him have his way. The dog emperor immediately activated the rain at the critical moment. Belian arrived just in time. She had inherited her mother's energy, unconsciously using the power of the necklace to break the barrier. She cried out heartbreakingly, "Dad, no," to end the tiresome contract relationship. The Duke was prepared to end his own life at the crucial moment. His daughter broke through the barrier and rushed in, "Dad, no." Meanwhile, Max was still focused on hunting, but because the rabbit in front of him looked like his girlfriend, he, usually brutal, actually let it go. Today, he was overjoyed because he received a gift from his girlfriend, and whenever he had time, he would take it out and stare at it with a silly smile. It turned out that the sachet contained herbs that could repel magical beasts, but they had already walked deep into the forest and hadn't seen even a hair of a magical beast. Logically, they should have encountered some by now. Suddenly, Max IV thought of something and shouted while pulling the reins, "Let's go back. There are none here now. The magical beasts have moved on, and we haven't encountered any on all the hunting grounds paths. The only place we haven't checked is the spectator stands, but Billion is in the spectator stands. She must not come to any harm." Actually, his little girlfriend was with his evil father at that moment, Because of Belian's intrusion, the dog emperor was able to seize the moment when Regis let his guard down and activated the power of the Gilk Rain. And to keep himself alert, Regis stabbed his left hand with a short sword. At least in front of Belian, he absolutely couldn't turn into a monster. But under the absolute control of the rain, everything seemed so powerless. Regis finally fell to his knees. Looking up, half of his body was already controlled by the rain. Seeing this, the dog emperor laughed even more rampantly. HMPH, this is an obedient dog, but you still have to pay the price for defying me. Kill your daughter. I want you to tear apart the most precious thing to you with your own hands and regret it for life. The stunned Belian couldn't believe that her father, who loved her so much, would kill her with his own hands. At this critical moment, a golden magic circle exploded in front of them. Debin finally couldn't help but intervene. Regis, please wake up. He could clearly feel that Regis' arrow hadn't splashed. This meant he was also resisting the control with all his might, but if they delayed any longer, they would all die here. At this moment, Belian's heart-wrenching cry came from behind. Dad, it's me. Belian, didn't you say that for Mom and Dad? My existence itself is a treasure. Please don't give up. As soon as she finished speaking, the necklace began to glow softly. Regis' eye color also became lighter, and he collapsed as if all his strength had been drained. He held his head and screamed loudly, his painful appearance breaking Belian's heart. Just as she was about to rush over, her arm was firmly held by Devin. They had to take this opportunity to leave, but Belian still didn't want to leave her father behind. Seeing this, Devin suddenly turned around. Don't you understand? This is the state he least wants you to see him in. Belian wanted to say something more, but then came her father's heart-wrenching cry. So under Devin's urging, they successfully escaped from the dog emperor's clutches. Along the way, Belian had too many questions. Has Dad always been manipulated by the emperor? Even if you ask, don't blame your father. He made sacrifices for everyone. Uncle, are you my dad's friend? Haha, how could the dull and strange Regis have friends? I'm a friend of your mother, Maria. You can walk on your own from here. With others watching, even the emperor can't touch you. Although knowing Belian still had many questions, her memories would return soon. Then everything would become clear. Lijai looked around in the audience, searching for Belian, but when he finally saw his friend, he panicked. Because Belian was soaking wet and seemed to have lost her soul, what on earth had happened? Coincidentally, Max also returned at this time. Belian, are you all right? The moment she saw Max, she could no longer suppress her inner panic and helplessness. Max, please help me. It was the first time the girl cried in public, leaving her boyfriend stunned, frozen in place. As luck would have it, the magical beast Diamond Wolf was released at this moment, charging straight towards where the girl was. But Max realized it was already too late. Seeing the beast just one step away from him, Belian instinctively pushed the princess away, and the Diamond Wolf's bloody mouth lunged directly at her.